I just want to aim a big thanks to everyone who supports my channel and helps keep my infotainment alive. Links are in the video description for those who want to help keep this all going. Hope you enjoy the video. Hello everyone and welcome to Black History Month with Funky Foreigner. No least thanks to my alcoholic BO. I recently read that BLM hit the diversity lottery real hard. In 2020, donations to various BLM groups and their sympathetics amounted to $10.6 billion. The BLM Global Network Foundation alone, being one of the main organizers of the activity, raised $90 million. BBC headline, pun intended, reads, "Billions have been raised for racial equity groups." I just love them specifying equity, not equality. That's honest reporting for once. Billions have been raised for racial equity groups. What comes next? What's next? Well, why don't we just see where some of that money went? Black Lives Matter page owner uses $450,000 in donations for personal use, FBI says. BLM's national arm gave very little to local chapters while reaping millions, local BLM chapters allege in statement. BLM co-founders' jail reform group dropped $26,000 at luxury Malibu beach resort because who needs jail reform? BLM co-founders' consulting firm goes offline as reports expose her multi-million-dollar real estate buying spree. Top BLM activist demands probe into co-founder's multi-million-dollar real estate buying spree. Well, thank God someone cares about justice in that group. Okay then. Wow. What's absolutely mind-blowing is that this very woman, Patrisse Cullors, she's one of the 3 co-founders, and she blamed her movement for being unorganized, saying that while local chapters were passionate, they mostly focused on holding rallies and were too decentralized, which led to ineffective, slow, messy bureaucracy. Patrisse bluntly blamed her movement's, quote, half-drawn blueprints and roadmaps that led to untenable ends, end of quote, as well as BLM's lack of funding and vision. She even went so far as to say that black people had paid dearly for these shortcomings. Black people have suffered because of this, and so better organization was needed. So that's when she pushed to centralized power and stood up as the boss of BLM's Global Network Foundation, which is described as the umbrella organization that controls funds and chooses how to spend them across officially recognized BLM city chapters. Which they really didn't, as we could read amongst the headlines before, and so it's just amazing that this is the freaking backstory to her mansion shopping spree. Here we can see what the mansions look like that the co-founder purchased. 3 houses in Los Angeles, 1 in good old Georgia, and 1 in the Bahamas, because you just gotta need that social justice vacation, right? Is anyone surprised that the BLM co-founder identifies as a trained Marxist? The way I recall it, Marx used to live off of charity from other people as well. In his case, his wealthy family. In this case, the people paid for your luxurious cause. You know, I really hate to say this, but as a devoted anti-racist, I do have to say this probably isn't gonna do much to combat prejudice. The whole time, BLM critics have been pointing to the fact that black-on-black violence is a bigger cause of death and bigger problem amongst the black community than anything related to cops. And then the loudest protesters and so-called anti-racists present themselves as saviors, build up hope, and take tons of money, only to end up doing a metaphorical noogie of betrayal onto your entire collective. That's gotta hurt, right? Isn't that the lesson here, that identity politics really hurt? I also find it interesting how the top donors to this group include some of the most misanthropic banks that have been plaguing American democracy for decades. Banks that cash in when people can't afford to pay their mortgages. Banks that essentially caused and then went free after the 2008 financial crisis. As well as Amazon, that wants to replace humans with robots and hate unions. Interesting that a Marxist would take money from union phobics. And let's not forget Facebook, that loves surveillancing people and selling their personal info to big tech. That's all about the people, isn't it? Funny then how Facebook is also suppressing these stories. I mean, yeah, they recently came out and said they will be shadow banning all political material, left and right. So now socialists are upset too, not just conservatives. But still, what a useless site, isn't it? Not to mention various music groups that many would argue ruined the black community by turning gangsters into idols, refusing anything but the gangbanger model for modern music, and we all know modern music is pure cancer in general, but holy shit. Rap used to be cool, fun, and still very real, inclusive, not divisive. Today, people are literally making money bragging about how they're killing their fellow men. So you're taking money from Satan, okay? Don't tell me you're about the people when all of your sponsors are anything but. When your sponsors actively invest in preying on people, that also kind of speaks to the practical effects that your agenda might have. And how absurd isn't it to claim to be a Marxist while celebrating a music genre that's all about sacrificing your ideals for materialistic reward. Killing people for money is the ultimate crony capitalist stereotype. Everything about rap is satanic. That's kind of why I like it. I also like death metal, black metal, G.G. Allen, but I don't try to base my social identity on it. If I did, I'd probably be slinging feces on people just like Allen did. Kind of like you were doing with those violent riots in over 100 cities all throughout 2020. How much corona did you spread? Yeah, you love death, don't you? Not to mention Karl Marx, I don't even want to quote what he said about black people, because if I do, this video will get even more shadow banned than my channel already is, but if you read a quote on the screen here, I think you can get the gist. Having said that, I find it's very important to balance your media consumption and not just look at what stupid fake people are doing, because that's gonna radicalize you. So here's something I found to be the best vaccine against racial hatred. A black guy with a sense of humor.
King Mufafwe. You know what kind of king I am?
No.
I'm the king of Wakanda.
Really, nigga?
Oh, yes. You know my name? You must have heard my name before. Do not look at me like that. King Mufafwe. Oh, that's Billie Eilish. The top singer in Wakanda.
Shut the hell up.
Do not disrespect me, Aunt Frank, before I send you back to that camp.
The main question of the day is, what race would you not date? What race would you not date?
It's insane how this guy only has less than 10k subs. Make sure to subscribe to Andre Castle and check him out if you need to laugh more often. I think everyone needs that. 65% of black Americans support BLM, which is solid evidence of what a corrupt media will do to people. If you've been getting your reality from CNN, you are led to believe that violent riots in over 100 cities, with various leftists killing white people and Trump supporters for so-called revenge, were actually all about peace, and never even happened, because they didn't cover it. It's pretty easy to support a movement then. Heck, even 40% of white people support a group that essentially wants them dead, or at least removed from any power in America, because according to their political theory of post-colonialism and intersectionalism, you really just can't cure the inherent oppression of whiteness. To make things even more insane and fuel that legitimate hatred towards mainstream media, here's a study. A survey produced by Skeptic.com reveals that nearly half of American liberals believe that police killed 1,000 or more unarmed black men in 2019. The real number was 27, according to the Mapping Police Violence database. The so-called moderate centrists aren't any better. They illustrate 26% living with psychosis, but of course the worst you find is amongst the very liberal. Over 50% believe American police straight up murdered 1,000 or more unarmed citizens, and nearly 8% of the very liberal think the number was more than 10,000. I mean, technically speaking, that would qualify as a genocide, so no wonder you want to tear America apart and scream slogans about structural racism. If you're this psychotic thanks to CNN, MSNBC, etc., you can essentially blame the media for pretty much all of the polarization that's been happening in America. Which is kind of the problem of not letting a dying industry just die out already by not feeding them your attention. I mean, when YouTubers do clickbait, it's considered sordid. When the media does it, it's considered news.
I was trying to do some research on like the Asian hate, like the people are getting attacked or whatever. A bunch of black men that have been attacking Asians. So I'm like, what are you doing? Like, we're trying to like help like with the BLM and like you're gonna like. I mean, it's individuals. It's not a people, you know? That's not good. The optics of that are not good. These little things like that are enough to set back movements, you know? You can shape an entire people's perception about anything on how you do it. Just by, like, forcing the story to help, like, your platform.
So yeah, nothing is tearing the West apart more than sloppy clickbait journalism based on spreading hate and causing division, so they can have more to report on when violence happens and bring even more of that clickbait in. So the mainstream media are fully aware that the Asian hate crime epidemic is real, and it's mostly not white perpetrators that are the cause there. But they will insist on burying that story because then you might make buying large mansions not look very good. Other relevant questions include, number one, your money came primarily from corporate America. Isn't that supposed to be the most psychopathic, racist subset of the white population? Number two, how do you even make this much money when you're oppressed and nobody is behind you? Oh wait, you literally had all of America except for a few skeptics. You had celebrities, Hollywood, all of the media, most of the people, despite you victimizing those very people at random with your violent riots. Is that the idea of oppression, really? You think you would have been allowed to do that in Russia?
Yes. No.
So the definition of structural racism is when white people fund your narrative, empower your narrative, and spread your narrative to the point where they'll excuse black on white riots and black on Asian crime. That's oppression, according to you? I also can't help noticing the complete lack of Marxist analysis with these so-called Marxists. With a class perspective, black and white could unite against Wall Street, globalist corporations, big pharma, and end the war on drugs. But with a post-colonial intersectional perspective, black needs to blame white, aka other poor people, other working people, other people also getting screwed over by the system. That's why people hate BLM. They really do enforce everything they claim to be against. And they're ultimately just a corporate pet used for very rich virtue signaling. How ridiculous is it to get nominated to the Nobel Peace Prize because you made a bunch of media headlines? It just shows how cheap status is nowadays. But the most relevant question, what's gonna happen now? Are they just gonna keep buying mansions? Or something useful? Because billion is a lot of dollars. They're far from spending all of it by now, even with some luxury reparations. Even with the money that's left, now that they've been called out on it, with that money, you can still do actual difference in the world, if invested right. You could make a real change in your communities. Even after you've been caught with this pyramid scheme, it's not too late to change.
Oh wait, what's this?
Oh, they have armed militias now. So I guess that's gonna be one of my next videos, but just to warn you, I will be publishing it as an exclusive to Odyssey, also known as Library, because I'm just not comfortable giving you a take on this big tech platform, and you need to stop supporting big tech censorship anyway. So just move on out and subscribe over there. Links are in the video description. I'm your friendly neighborhood foreigner, and if you have even the most basic interest in keeping up to date with my work, subscribe to my newsletter so you'll never miss a new video. Stop being so stupid that you rely on YouTube notifications and subscriptions. I've proven they're completely unreliable in at least 2 videos now. I'm sure you never saw them, so check out my Substack and subscribe to my mailing list. That way you never have to miss a new video, and maybe I'll see you soon again. If not, YouTube won't notify you if something happens to this channel. Goodbye!